question loomed over me. What did I want to be? But in order to know what I wanted to be, I had to first decide what I wanted to make. I wanted to make more. So I became a teacher. Now,
so we're live, Rob.
Not a chore, not a frustration, a tool, not an obstacle. I make working hard seem easy, and giving up impossible. I make an old subject feel like a fresh thought, and unconventional methods common. I make materials less important.
What was that from? Oh, my sound. Never mind.
Kindness count.
We're good.
I make weekdays more exciting than weekends, and classrooms feel like anything but. I make things different, which is all I ever hoped for. I'm a teacher. I make more.
Find out how you can make more at teach.org. Make more. Teach. Brought to you by Teach and the Ad Council.
Kiss 107.1 is WTLZ Saginaw with Steve Harvey in the morning and simply the best R&B all day. Take us everywhere. Your smartphone, in your car, to work, or live at KissWTLZ.com. We're Kiss 107.1.
Well, good evening, Saginaw, and you've tuned into another edition of Straight Talk with Kareem Bowen. I'm so glad that you guys are with us for another great weekend of conversation, an hour, not a whole weekend, but an hour of conversation. I want to give my main man, the Rob Father, a shout out on today. Rob, let the people know that you're in the studio on this afternoon.
I'm always in the studio, man. Let me go pick up that camera real quick.
Yeah, we're going to just shoot to the straight ahead camera. For those of you who are out there, hope you guys are having an amazing time with us on today. Like the intro. All right. Thank you, Donna, for giving us the feedback. You guys just let us know that you're hearing us quite well, because we're just trying to make sure that some of the issues that we've been having via the internet and streaming and those types of things are going well. But we are excited to be here on today. I don't know. I'm geeked. I don't know why I'm geeked. And those of you who are watching via social media absolutely have no clue as to why I am geeked. But if you can see my socks, you can see my green and white Spartan socks. I want to give a shout out to all of my MSU alum. The Spartan Dogs pulled it out one more time against those Wolverines up the road. We came out with an amazing victory. And it was so funny because this game, when I tell you, Rob, I think I ended up with a small amount of PTSD. I think I ended up with a small amount of PTSD after this past weekend's game. So much I had to go to a program, and but I'm rocking my Spartan gear. I had to go to a program, and I didn't want to watch the game, and we were losing, Rob, and I was like, I am not going to have this game on while we're losing, and you know everybody see this. But I kept going on and was getting the stats, the updates, and when I tell you this was a great in-school, in-state rivalry between two amazing teams. I want to say to my dear friends down there in Ann Arbor, my Wolverines, keep your head up. Hey, you know, it didn't happen last year, and I think they said something like out of the last 5 of the last 7 we've won, but keep your head up, keep coming strong, and maybe you'll get the taste of victory. You know, we don't want to rub your noses in it at all, so we just wish you well, and better luck next time, all right? All right, so I got that out my system. Now I am feeling good once again. Go green for my Spark Dogs out there. Amazing time. Okay, this is, I don't know if it's just me, but Rob, does it seem like that October is here and gone, and does it seem like this year flew by?
October month, feel that way, yes.
I'm still
thinking about September.
Man, I'm trying to figure out what happened to September. Do you remember?
I remember September, but I don't remember what happened to October.
But this entire year, I stopped and I looked. I'm like, oh my goodness, it's already the ending of October. Kids are getting Halloween costumes, and we want to make sure that you all are being safe out there. I think 6 to 8 are the hours for, or is it? I don't know what those hours. Don't listen to me. Y'all check your local listings. For trick or treat, I don't trick or treat. I don't celebrate the holiday. I don't celebrate the holiday anymore. But as a kid, I know that there's a lot of parents out there buying those costumes. So let's please make sure that we are being smart. We're being safe. For those of you who are going to be out in the street, keep the kids safe. Keep our eyes out. Let them know, or let them know that you're watching for them. So break for the kids. All right. All right. Shout out to my girl, Brandy Buck. I don't know if you're listening today, but you know, it's interesting when you meet people on social media. And you don't ever have a real conversation with them, and then you meet them. And so it was funny because I met this young lady. We had conversation on social media about doing some work in the community, but we had never met personally. Yes, it's 6 to 8 for trick-or-treating. Thank you, Yvonne. She is such, that's your afternoon girlfriend, Yvonne Daniels, content program director here at KISS 107.1 WTLZ. Thank you for that update. So if you're trick-or-treating, the hours are 6 to 8 p.m. So let's be smart while we're out there. But Brandy Buck, shout out to you. I was went to a restaurant for lunch today, and was sitting next to her. I'm like, I think that's, and they were sitting there, and we just started talking, and she's like, yeah, you're going to be pretty late, and you got a radio show today, don't you? But you know, it was interesting. So great job, great time meeting you, Brandy. Shout out to you and those that you were with, your little ones, your friend, everyone else. It's great to have made your acquaintance. All right, we're going to talk about what's on my mind. I'm telling you, this is this is big news. Rob, can I get a drum roll? I told you that I was going to continue come to this point until I got a confirmed date for our mayor, Brenda Moore, and the city manager. They will both be here on Straight Talk, and we're going to have a real in-depth conversation. We're going to talk about what's going on with the ARPA funds. As it relates to the city, we can all talk and we can all put together meetings. We can have all of these different things going on. But at the end of the day, we've got to have conversations with the powers that be to find out their perspectives. There's always two sides to every story, you know, and so we want to make sure that we get clear understanding of what our city is saying, our mayor is saying, in terms of the direction of those funds and exactly how those funds are going to be used and what's going to happen. So that's going to happen on November 21st. All right. So mark your calendars. I'm going to ask the tough questions and we're going to get to the heart of the matter. No chaser, no filter, the way we do. All right. So mark your calendars for that. The next thing that's on my mind. Oh, man, Rob, yesterday, 3 Sundays from today. Mark your calendars. We're going to have that conversation. But on yesterday, man, we had our meet and greet with the Dow Treasure Academy. Our first actual session starts on Monday. It was absolutely amazing. We had some amazing leadership and executives from Dow coming in and spending time and meeting. We did a speed mentor. If you've ever seen speed dating back in the 80s, I'm dating myself. Back in the 80s, they used to do speed dating. Oh, really? Rob, come on now. Your people created this, your generation. But you would sit down at a table and you would spend 5 minutes here and then you would go until you made a connection with someone. I have no idea what you're talking about. Well, okay. So maybe this is just the people that I come from, okay? But we did speed mentoring yesterday for an introduction. It was absolutely amazing. I'm going to tell you, when they say that Saginaw parents don't show up, parents from the Hill, the High, and Sassa showed up. I am so pumped about how involved that they were. And Rob, there were a lot of male parents there. And there were male parents there as well. And as a matter of fact, after our meeting, one of the male parents said, hey, I didn't get the notification that my son was going to actually have this meeting today. I want to be involved with his life. And I thought that this was so amazing. Great seeing you, Alma Carr. You ran into your granddaughter. God bless you as well. But it was so cool seeing the parents engaged in this process. They say our parents are not involved. They say our parents don't care. I don't believe that for a second. And you guys are showing me something beautiful. Every student that came had a parent with them. And there was one young lady who did not have a parent. And guess who came with her, Rob? Her big brother. Good. And he's taking notes and he's asking questions and he wants to be involved with the program. So we started something that we weren't even anticipating, a PAC, a parent action committee, where they're going to be involved with every step of this. The parents were encouraged. And I think that if we can inspire the young people and have the entire community and parents' involvement with wrapping around these students, I am so amazed. Mark this day, October 31st, 2021, when these kids are graduating, the impact that they will have been able to have upon their lives and the level of trajectory of greatness that we're going to see in theirs. I guarantee it's going to be absolutely amazing. All right, so I was talking with someone and they were saying, hey, we really enjoyed, and Miss Daniels, Yvonne is out there in the audience on today, but they said, hey, we really enjoyed that conversation that you had on colorism, you know, and my role here is to really have conversations that impact our community. There's a lot that we need to talk about. There's a lot we talk about, and there's a lot that we need to talk about, and there's a big gulf in between. So my role on the radio is to really talk about the issues that are important to our community, but then also challenge us to have the tough conversations. We're going to have tough conversations. We're going to bring up the conversation on good hair. What is good hair? That's not going to happen today. I'm scheduling it out. We're going to have it, and we're going to get into that conversation, because when we talk about what is good hair, there is a whole system of assimilation, a whole system of brain washing, a whole system that is in place there in terms of what is good and what's beautiful, okay? And I don't know about y'all, Rob. I'm going to give you a chance. Your black is what, Rob?
My black?
Your black is what?
I don't know what you mean by that.
Okay, I'm going to tell you. My black is beautiful. The way that it is, every shade, every color. Well, okay, so what is your black, Rob?
It's beautiful. It's natural what it is. And I'm proud to be black.
It's natural. Whatever comes out is natural. And so we have a people, colorism, and classism within. Man, Jeff, we're going to have those conversations. They're coming up soon. We're going to have those conversations while people are off a break and can really get into this thing. Colorism, classism, and we're also going to talk about how we ought to. Well, go ahead, Rob.
Are we going to talk about racism?
Yeah.
Because when black people go against their own kind or their own color, say, oh, he's too black to be dating you, or he's too light skinned. We like the light skinned ones, so we want to find them here.
Y'all remember school days? The what was it? The jigaboos and the light. What I can't remember the two groups, but y'all remember. We're going to have that conversation because a lot is still in existence today. And what you're saying, Rob, is what my guy Jeffrey Bulls is saying. We need to have these conversations about classism and colorism within. When a lot of things that we deal with, you know, it's not always the enemy without, it's the enemy, right? So because if the enemy without can't kill you, then you know what I'm saying? If the one that kills you on the inside can't kill you, then the one that's on the outside can do you no harm. That's what I believe. So we're going to have those conversations, and I'm so geeked and excited about it because I believe we're going to have some real good down-home conversations. All right, so we're going to get right into the crux, the meat, the essence of what we're going to talk about today. But before we do so, Rob, you know, I need to check in with my people. Saginaw, come on, y'all. Come on. The Jigaboos and the Wannabes. Thank you, Yvonne Daniels. Yes. Way back in the day, some of you may be too young to know about it, but Spike Lee did a show, and the name of the show was School Days. And it really was a show that chronicled the experience of what it was like to go to a black college, you know, and how we were with each other, the fraternities and the sororities. And the light-skinned folks were called the Wannabes, and the dark-skinned folks were called the Jigaboos. And it is a story of colorism and classism that exists within our community. Now, we are going to address some other issues. I'm going to have to give you guys an overview because Rob and I were talking on my other show, which is on WSGW. Rob, give me that plug.
WSGW AM and FM AM, 790 AM, 100.5 FM, heard every Sunday night at 7 o'clock. And that's United Shades of Gray. And we were talking about something that we never talk about in our community that I got a book on, and it was talking about black not secret codes, but black benevolent societies. And so when I began to hear about that and find out what black benevolent societies were and how they worked and how they were a benefit to our community, I said, you know, we got to lean, we got to talk about this because our history is so amazing and it's so powerful. But we're going to continue. We're going to have those conversations on good but I want to talk. This is what I want to talk about. This is where I was going. We have a new restaurant. You know, when there are new restaurants that open, and we've seen this a number of times with the different restaurants that show up in our community, we have been saying we want, you know, we want a soul food restaurant. We want catfish. We want tacos. We want all of this stuff, but we got to do some things in our own community. I'm going to tell y'all, Saginaw, you know, some things that we do and how we act in the face of company is absolutely ridiculous. I'm a firm believer that we have to lend grace to
companies, businesses, restaurants, when they show up. There was a whole debacle that went forth. I'm not going to say what it was, but I do want to say this in terms of our good housekeeping in the village. When we have new businesses that open up that speak to a pain point, and when I say that, what I mean is there's something that is coming that is meeting a need that we don't have in our community. Can we please take out the fangs, the claws? Let's well, you can retract them and give the new businesses a chance. We are so hard on ourselves. And that when people, you know, when you're starting a new business and you got lines wrapped around the building down to the other street. And I want to say this, shout out to Tia's. You know, I know you started out and there was some publicity, some negative press that was out there about what you were doing. But I'm going to tell you, Tia, you keep doing what you are doing. I need you to focus. I need you to put your ear blinders on, your eye blinders. Don't allow anything to get into those two gates. Control what you hear, control what you see. Don't worry about social media. Continue to do what you do and do well, okay? And this is what I want to say to my Saginaw city, my Saginaw community. There's a lot that we say that we want. So that means that we've got to lean in for each other, because I'm going to tell you, there's always someone else on the outside of the fence waiting for an opportunity to tear you down. That's right, Jeff. So we've got to begin to realize if something isn't right, let's go to the ownership. Let's be discreet. Don't run to social media. If you do something that's wrong, I'm going to tell you right now, y'all wouldn't want to come to my restaurant, because if you said that you was going to bring some food back, I'm like, if you don't come back here. That's exactly how I'll be. Don't come back. But we've got to learn how to protect, to put our arms around and protect the businesses that we have in the community. If something's not right, let's be discreet about it. Let's go in, let's have a conversation, because the idea is to make each other better. All right. The idea, right. And we have to do that. So if you haven't been to Tia's, I haven't had my chance to come to you, because when I came, I promise you, the line was around the building once and then up the back by the Parkway, Green Parkway, or whatever it is in BV, all the way to Outer Drive. And a brother was in a hurry. So, you know, since I am on the radio, if you want to give me a plate and I can just pay for it when we come, we can do that too. No, but get out there and support our Black businesses, our restaurants. There is a great something coming up with women's empowerment. Latrice, good one. Come on, Latrice, do your thing. We've got to be willing to lean into one another, support one another, encourage one another, and protect one another. Am I my brother's keeper? We absolutely are. And that means we've got to protect them from sometimes the enemy within, Rob. That's the saddest thing on the planet.
Like we talked about the issue that we'll be talking about in 2 weeks. We are our own worst enemies, and we don't trust one another. We have trust issues. And I don't know why we have trust issues after 400 years of slavery. We should not be having trust issues.
But that's exactly the problem.
We call each other brother and sister. That's one reason why I call each other brother and sister. But one of the reasons that is because all we have, you know.
And that's true. But a lot of this, Rob, there is a historic trauma that Black people experience that we never talk about. And that trauma starts when we had families standing on the block. And because we were strong and because we were Black, we're talking about those microaggressions and things that were thought in order for them to make sure that slavery was okay in their own thinking. They're strong enough to withstand the division of a family. They really knew what was going on. They're strong enough. We can separate families. We can separate relations. If people get too close, we separate them. And then we promote one portion of folks who look like us or closer to us because they're our descendants, because we raped, you know, their ancestors, their parents. And now we got a whole bunch of people that look somewhat like us. And we establish a difference in between those two groups of people. And when that happens, it's something that is gone through generation after generation. I remember, Rob, this is the craziest story, and I did not mean to go here. My great aunt, my mother's sister, God rest her soul, her name was Lois McSwain. She was raised down in Florida. Where is the city in Florida? I can't think. Pensacola, Florida. And she was when we talk about the paper bag test, she was one of those individuals who could pass. She would walk all over the city of Saginaw. Never been to a hospital other than the day. She was even Pensacola, Florida. She would walk all over the city of Saginaw here. But this is what's so crazy. She had never been in a hospital in her entire life, not even when she was born. And she was in the community. She was raised in the Deep South. She came to the North. And when she went into the hospital, she got sick, probably around 84 years old. And there were some emotional issues that she had there. She went into the hospital and she had the most amazing Black nurse that was working with her. And when the nurse came in to take her blood pressure cuff readings and to take her temperature, all of the vitals, she said, "I don't want no N-word nurse touching me." This is what I mean. I'm sitting like, whoa, like Aunt Lois, like where, and she was like, "I don't want no N-word nurse touching me." But this has come from a lifetime, a legacy, 84 years at that time. And she's been dead about 15 years, I guess, 20 years now. A product of her environment. But what it speaks to is that trauma that we've experienced. It speaks to the fact that, Black doctors and Black nurses, they must have, where did you get your degree or your education from? That we are less than, and we keep these things going on in our community. And if we're ever going to achieve and be who I know we have the potential to be, we've got to learn to lean in with one another. We've got to have hard conversations like we're going to be able to have, Robin. We've got to begin to talk about the things and the issues and the myths that are held true in our own community, where we are looking at someone because they don't have a certain thing. We look down on them. We have issues of classism in our own community. Then we look at them. If your hair is kinky, we used to say you got nappy hair. But, hey, the sisters got me together real quick. It's not happy. Nappy. It may be happy, but it's kinky hair. And as Black folks who come from a continent that is rich in the sun and the soul, it may be kinky, but you know what? It's still mine. And it's beautiful. And we've got to teach ourselves to put down some of those negative stereotypes that have been inbred in us, that have been pushed on us, and begin to realize what beautiful is. There's a reason why all of our Black men chasing after white women. I ain't gonna say all of them, because that's not my thing. It's because we've lost it. I want somebody who looks like my mama. But I mean, these are real conversations, though. We're going to have them in the community. And the fact of the matter is, I want a woman who looks like my mother because I respect my mother. I think my mother is absolutely beautiful. I think she's a class act. She raised me well. All of those things. What do you say? My man Jeff Bull said, slave remnants. We are taught to hate ourselves, and that white man's ice is colder than ours. And that is so true. That's exactly what I'm saying. And no shade to what they doing now. Because one of the things I realize is I can let go the pains and the hurts of my past. Just leave me alone today. Let me do and execute the way that I am today and watch it. Like I told you, Maya Angelou, and like dust we will rise, because we are a strong people. We are extremely powerful, and we are resilient. So we've got to begin to love ourselves. So that was my whole soapbox. I'm going to get off of my soapbox right now, but I needed to say that let's get out there. Let's support our businesses, because if you don't support them, nobody else will. And then you'll be back on the whipping post talking about what we need to have in the community. All right. So let's support what we have. Let's breed greatness. Let's breed a sense of community. It's time to rebuild the village. And we got to do that one business, one street, one person, one mentality at a time. All right. So let's get out there. Rob, this is a great time for us to take a commercial break. We're going to come back. When we come back, we're moving toward the holiday season. After 2 years of being locked in, it's time for us to forgive. We're going to talk about forgiveness and the power of forgiveness, and how do we let it go when they've hurt us and they're trying to come back. Y'all stay tuned with more Straight Talk.
To Straight Talk with Kareem Bowen on KISS 107.1. Save big money on your next project with 11% off everything.
It's not just been falling off and down. I don't know how to fix it. I don't know what to do with it. And now it's disconnected. So I'm a bitch for stuff like that. It either works or it doesn't work. And I don't have the time to screw with it. So Paige will be here tomorrow. She can fix it. She's on it all the time.
Everything now at Menards. Good through November 6th. Savings are mail-in rebates. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
It's not the same camera we got in SUW. I don't know why you don't have this.
What's that?
It's not the same camera we have in SUW.
Yeah, no.
So fresh, so life-changing. I had to find its source. I didn't know if you were the woman in the pink freshly washed cardigan, or the retired mailman next to you, but I knew one of you was my soulmate. Ah, the scent of Gain Flings. That Gain scent piece for an even longer lasting scent. Wake up to Wendy's and get a bacon or sausage, egg, and Swiss breakfast croissant for just $1.99. Made with fresh cracked eggs and served on a hot buttery croissant that's fluffy enough to sleep on. It's time to wakey wakey. Get the Wendy's
wakey wakey.
Bacon or sausage, egg, and Swiss breakfast croissant for just $1.99. That's a better breakfast for just $1.99. Only at Wendy's. We got it. Limited time only. U.S. price participation may vary. Third-party delivery prices may vary. Not valid in Alabama.
With just one spray of Microban 24, your hard surfaces are sanitized for up to 24 hours. Touch after touch after touch.
So 6 hours from now?
Still sanitized.
12 hours?
Yep.
18 hours?
We're really doing this.
24 hours.
When used as directed, one spray of Microban keeps killing 99.9% of bacteria, touch after touch for, up to 24 hours.
Wow.
Microban 24, the sanitizer 4 out of 5 doctors would use in their own homes. So why aren't you? It's great.
Okay, guys, we are back with more conversation here. It is just 24 or so past the hour. We're going to get into this conversation that I think is going to be so appropriate for the time we are currently in. I'll tell you, Rob, there are so many things, and this is something that I've really been kind of like meditating on and thinking about over the past, few weeks or so. I come from a family that is a huge family in the community we grew up. There's so many. My mom, I had 10 uncles and aunts, or 9 uncles and aunts, and my mom was one of 10 children. And we grew up having such wonderful relationships. We grew up with such amazing dynamics. I was an only child for a long time until 16 years later or so, my brother was born. And so my cousins were my brothers and sisters. We all grew up like brothers and sisters. There was a whole tribe of us, and we would spend the night together, hang out, have pajama parties, have so much fun, do all of these things. And that's when we got older, life changes. But what I do see that has taken place is something that has not changed necessarily for the better, but something for the worse. And I know that this is something that everyone who has a family can relate to. My family probably like, why you getting on the radio talking about us? Well, because that's what I can relate to, all right? And so hopefully if you hear it, you'll lean into it and we'll do something different to make a change. What I've seen over the years is that different things arise, issues will happen. You say something, my feelings are hurt. I'm hurt now, so I'm mad. I don't tell you that I'm upset, which is we should always go to the individual. But we harbor these feelings and these emotions. Things happen, continue to happen. Then one thing, it just snowballs. And then suddenly we find ourselves not having the relationships with our family, with a friend, long distance family members, or just, just people that were once very dear and near to us. And so I want to talk to us today about forgiveness, because there's one thing that I learned from what has happened over the past 19 months with this COVID thing. One is life is so short. It's too short. The second thing is that, we never know what tomorrow has to offer. And I'll tell you that in March of 2020, it's crazy. I never thought that when this pandemic came, we've seen SARS and bird flu and all these other things come, and they've come, and we've literally been really unaffected for the most part by a lot of these things. But COVID came in and it changed the landscape in so many ways. And I never thought that one of my close cousins, Willie Maurice Prescott, would become and succumb to the COVID virus. It was my closest relative that died. Grew up, play cousin like a brother. And it just got me thinking, like, there's so many relatives that I haven't talked to in a long time. Now, I don't carry beef, Rob. I don't know how you operate, but I'm not the individual. Like, I'm going to get mad and I'm going to get over it. And I may get over you, but I'm not going to be mad at you. I can't do both. And so there are a lot of relationships that I recognize, family relationships, friends that I just don't talk to anymore. And it's sad because our relationships are the spice of life. They are the thing that really give life its flavor. And so today I want to just have a real good conversation with you all and give you guys some steps to forgiveness as this COVID, some sense of whatever we're going to be, returns. And we're now entering into what I consider the holiday season. This is really a season of family. Thanksgiving is coming. It's not about pilgrims. We know the real story, okay? We know it's not about 1492 and Columbus sailing. He was lost and ended up someplace where people already existed. We know the truth, all right? But It's about being thankful for what you have. It's about being thankful for those you have in your family. It's about an appreciation, even though you don't see eye to eye, even though you don't agree on everything. Rob, you may have hurt me, but I'm going to appreciate the fact that you're still in my life, and I'm going to let this thing go. So as we move into this holiday season and we look at celebrating the birth of, Christ, or Christmas, or Santa Claus, whichever holiday you all celebrate during the season, New Year's Eve, a chance to start all over again. I think it's important and very appropriate that we talk about forgiveness. Rob, how are you in the world of forgiveness?
Most people don't want to know how. I have certain issues with forgiveness on things. I don't go by the religious factor of
Absolutely.
Forgiveness. I've never had. I have a strong stance against betrayal and loyalty. If someone betrays me or disloyal, that's unforgivable in my book. I can forgive certain other things, but someone that just betrays me or disloyal to me, I just can't find myself around that. Now, people say, well, you should forgive for the benefit of yourself and whatnot, but I like to believe that my mindset is psychologically strong enough to discern which is which. And so if I may not necessarily forgive you, it doesn't mean I'm going to be nasty to you. I can be cordial with you.
Okay.
But other than that, there's just many things, and I've not been presented with certain things in my life where I don't like someone murdered my kid or whatever it is. I haven't been presented with that, and I hope I never have to be presented with that, because I think that if that happened, I wouldn't be able to forgive that person either. But in terms of the simple things of like betrayal, loyalty, that's something that I can't get past, because I don't want that to happen to me again.
All right.
I'm usually forgivable about certain other things. It would take me a while, but other things I just kind of let go and say, okay, I know where you're coming from, and I'll be careful next time.
All right, Rob, why am I not surprised? We have not had a pre-conversation concerning this, but I want to talk to the Robs of this world that are out there that, hey, I can forgive certain things, and some things I use the word unforgivable. Your words, not mine. But there are some of us that are out there, and many of us that are carrying weights and burdens of unforgiveness.
And I should point that, and you said weights and burdens. It's not a burden to me.
Okay.
Because I'm 61 years old, and since my childhood, I'm comfortable with that sort of thing. I've had people tell me, well, it's a burden you carry. Actually, it's not, and it's never been. And probably because I don't think about it that way. And I never go forth that way, because I don't hold any grudges towards people per se. I just know that, when it comes to that particular issue, it's not a burden for me. I can easily, my conscience is clear, is what I'm saying.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, for those other individuals, unlike Rob, is who we're going to talk to today, because there's many of you that have not forgotten. And I'll tell you, it's easy for us to say, I don't care, I'm good, whatever, miss me with that, and you go on and do your thing. But the fact of the matter is, if something were to happen to those individuals that you've written off, I've learned by experience that the hurt and the pain is a lot different than what we would anticipate. So I want to give us some steps. I want to talk about those who want to really understand the power of forgiveness in their life and understand how important, how do we go through these steps? How do I get over it? The first thing I want you to realize is that it's okay to be angry. So it's okay. I want you to understand that it's okay to get mad. You will get upset. You'll get frustrated. You'll get angered by people. And what I always tell people is to get mad, feel the hurt or feel the pain that you're experiencing in that moment, grieve that process. Depending on the level of hurt that you have experienced, you can actually go through grief in being hurt in that particular situation. So it's important for you to get mad, feel the hurt, and grieve. When someone hurts you, grief and anger are natural and a healthy response. If you don't have those, I'm going to be kind of concerned about you. But if you get angry, if you're hurt, you're angry, you're mad, go through that process. The only thing that I'm going to say is self-pity. We often decide, I'm not going to be angry, I'm not going to be mad, but then we begin to carry this thing called self-pity, Rob, where it's woe is me, the world is after me, everyone hates me, and the reality of the situation is we've got to begin to deal with our own personal selves, go through the process of feeling hurt or anger or abandoned or whatever it is, and walk through that process. Yes, Rob.
I've done all those steps. I've done those steps, especially my therapist. He's asked me the same questions, whatnot. Pretty much the same thing you said. And he discovered that I'm not a person that is a woe is me person. You have to know my life story to understand why I am the way I am, think the way I do. It goes to a lot deeper than that.
My man is in here trying to defend his position.
I'm justifying.
I don't want you to justify. I want you to listen.
Because there are a lot of people who are like me, and I'm not the only one like you.
Well, okay. Well, let's not taint our waters. Okay, because I think that the squeaky wheel gets the oil, and those who are hurting never cry ouch. Amen. So if it's not you, then I digress. Okay. But there are a lot of people out there who are feeling that they understand who you are when you feel that. And I need you to understand that forgiveness is allowing the negative feelings of outrage and grief to come in. You got to allow yourself to feel it. Feel angry, feel mad, feel frustrated, whatever it is. And then you've got to practice and learn to let it go. Because now you're peace, now that you're at peace with your life. And if you don't allow yourself to allow that anger to remove itself from your life, then there's some things that we're going to talk about what exactly. And so I want you guys to know the next thing I want you to do is I want you to ask yourself whether your anger is constructive or destructive. All right, so we're still going on our one camera, Rob. I want to appreciate you. Thanks for keeping that stream going. I want you to know, so is your anger, is it constructive or destructive? What does that mean? Rob, if I ask you if your anger was constructive, what am I asking you?
Is it useful for myself as well as for the person who I'm angry about? Is it something that I could use and learn from? If it's destructive, it's something that may hurt me from the inside or cause me to do destructive to something else, if not destructive to my own self.
All right. Constructive anger, it solves the problem that we're dealing with.
Right.
So I'm upset, and you know what? I'm going to protect my heart. I'm going to stop myself from being placed in certain situations. And if you all would really begin to look at your lives, you'll realize that when you get hurt, it's the same situation that you get hurt. You get hurt doing this, you get hurt doing this, and you say, I'm not going to do this again. And then your heartstrings begin to pull and you do it again and you get hurt over and over again. So constructive criticism means that you begin to look at yourself. What is it that I could have done differently?
Constructive anger, you mean?
That constructive anger, right. What is it that I could have done differently that would have changed this particular outcome? And you don't always say it's me, because a lot of times I don't want you to begin blaming you if I did something wrong. No, but is there a place that I'm, and some of it is just allowing the wrong people into my life.
Right.
So I've got to look at this anger. I'm mad that this occurred. Is there something that I'm doing to allow these people in? Then also, am I allowing these people to have access to me in a way that they can take advantage of me?
And control your peace and what have you.
Absolutely. Then you do what is necessary for you to walk through this process. Constructive means that you're looking at a way to go, and you're looking at a way to keep your head up and keep walking. I've seen this so many times. There were individuals that were so upset, and the first thing that they do, Rob, is they punch. They punch a wall. They get in a car. They start drinking alcohol, and you find them running in, getting into accidents. Those are all destructive manners in which we show anger. When you go over to your ex-girl's house because you find out she got a new man, and you taking, you take your peace, your heat with you because you want to show her who the real man is, and you get into an altercation. That is another example of what destructive behavior and handling these things in a destructive manner are, right? So the way that we do this is you can't make nobody love you, first of all. And I say that all the time. So when people hurt me, I accept that the fact that being hurt, being disappointed, being made to be upset, they are all a part of life, and we're all going to have our day in experiencing those things. So I feel the pain, I deal with it, and I say, okay, what are things that I may be able to do different that I don't end up in this place? And then I begin to move on. I also begin to make sure that I manage that anger in a good way. How do I do it? I read books that talk about anger. I read books that talk about abandonment so that I make sure that I'm not harboring these things in my heart. Go ahead, Rob.
Just be careful you don't overanalyze yourself, because that could be dangerous too. You think too much about what you may have done, what you can do differently.
No, and that's why I said, because one of the things that often happens, and I'm glad you're saying that, is that people will come in, and especially in male-female romantic relationships, right, and you'll find a victim who is now, I should not have done this. I shouldn't have done this, and he would not have been mad. You know, that's not what we're talking about. You got to call a spade a spade. Anybody who puts their hand or their mouth to and hurts you in any particular way, because, man, I watched this amazing movie. All abuse is not physical.
Right.
And there are some scars that we get from the psychological, the emotional That's abuse, right, that will take much longer and may never heal in our lives, exactly, where the physical abuse may be able to be healed. And so when I say that, if you are in a place and that you're healthy, and the only way that you know that you have to begin to examine those things. But I think we have to begin to put up boundaries for people who continually and habitually hurt us. And when I say about constructive, dealing with anger in a constructive manner, I am saying process those emotions. Say to yourself, this is what I'm going to do. I'm no longer going to allow myself to be hurt in that manner. And then you begin to pick up the pieces and you move forward. All right. The next thing that I want you to look at, number 3, I want you to think about this. Don't worry. Okay. You aren't saying that the offense isn't okay, Rob, because oftentimes, you know, and my mom is listening, and people think that I want them to be superhuman. It's not. Well, what I've learned, Rob, is that when I worry about a situation and I worry about, you know, this person did this to me and I want to get even, I spend so much time focused on that I begin to abandon the things that I really am truly concerned about. I lose focus when you worry, and that means you push your energy and you begin to focus on what other people have done to you in the past.
You're allowing them to take real estate in your brain.
And right, and we talk about that. You get to live free in your brain.
Yep.
And Oprah Winfrey had Bishop Gates on one time, and he said that whenever you focus on the harm that someone has caused you in your past, you do so at the expense of your future destiny. So if I spend so much time focused on how I was hurt yesterday, that means that the energy that I'm using or expending or focusing on that hurt from yesterday is taking away from the passion and the purpose and the energy that I have to focus on my today. And oftentimes it's easy to get caught up in this cycle because we feel like in order for us to move forward, that what happened yesterday has to be remedied. And what you need to realize is that you've got to get to a place that you realize that if they never say, I'm sorry, that you can still be okay. Because when we talk about forgiveness, and we've heard this a million times, it's almost cliche, that forgiveness is not for the offender, but forgiveness is for the one who has suffered the offense. Why? Because when you allow that forgiveness to begin to create a bruise in your soul, and notice what I'm saying, I didn't say an injury or a scar or a tear or a rip. Those things heal a lot faster than a bruise will. And the fact of the matter is, people will see you, Rob, after they've offended you. And because you don't have any physical sign on the outside, they'll assume like, oh, they got over it. It was no big deal. Not recognizing that a bruise has the ability to last forever and is much more dangerous than the scars and the wounds that we can see on the surface of someone's life. So we want to make sure that we don't worry. Don't allow yourself to worry. One of the biggest misconceptions about forgiveness is that it means you are condoning the offender's behavior. But in fact, forgiveness means that you don't condone it. You know it's wrong or inappropriate, but you choose to cleanse your heart. When we forgive, we cleanse our heart. You don't make excuses for the behavior. You just accept it, make peace with it, and that's a very different situation. When we talk about making excuses, and a lot of times we'll say, well, you know how they are. I'm gonna say, that don't work with me, Rob. When people come to me like, well, they say that, and this offended me, and I don't like it. Well, you know how they are. What does that mean? So certain people
I get this out of
license to just offend people, and it's okay. No, you don't get that opportunity in my life, because you know what I'm gonna do, number one? I'm gonna come to you, Rob, and say, Rob, I didn't appreciate this. I didn't like this. I was offended by this. And let me explain to you why. Here's what I expect from anybody who's going to be in my life. And then once we get that piece done, then I'm gonna let it go. And then it's going to be on you. When people come into my orbit or people that are my sphere, I give them 100% trust. Now, how you act with the trust that you have been given determines how much will remain after our continued interactions. And if it gets to a point that I see that you are continually a offender of my trust, then you no longer get any trust to be able to offend me with. So you've got to make sure that you put things in place that can allow you to sleep at night, because I will tell you, this is 1000% the truth. If you're listening to me, people who offend people usually go home and they sleep at night because they don't think about how you're feeling. And while you're sitting there aching and pining over the feelings and the emotions that you have expressed, your blood pressure is going through the roof while they're sleeping at night. So let's make sure that we don't worry about those things. And you're not saying it don't matter, I forget. No, we're not going to condone the behavior. We'll address the behavior, but you've got to first of all deal with yourself. You can't help someone else heal until you've been healed yourself. All right. Then we want to begin to practice stress reduction techniques. Rob, is there anything that you do that is designed to help you deal with stress in your life?
Sure. And I was taught this in the military, actually, not necessarily by the military, but while I was in the military, because I had a lot of stressful moments in the military. I just get into the things I enjoy doing. I may play a game of chess with someone. It takes my mind off things. I may get into my music. I get into a writing, diary, and things of that sort. Those things help me to deal with stress. And then as I'm dealing with different people, once I learn more about that person, I know where he or she is coming from. I know how to navigate myself with that particular person. I've learned him or her how to navigate with them, not necessarily liking what they do or condoning what they do, or not necessarily, even if I like what they do, I have to know how to navigate around that person to keep the stress off of me or to manage my stress accordingly. Because a lot of people take a lot of stress,
Stress management is so important, Rob.
It is.
Because I'll tell you what Yvonne Daniels, I was just getting ready to say it, and she posted it on her social media. I was just getting ready to say our content director, Yvonne Daniels, always, she has a podcast titled Take a Deep Breath to help relieve your stress. Now, let me tell you what that means. Because when she was talking to me about this, I was like, take a deep breath. Like, I'm going to take a deep breath and knock you out. No. but she always talks about taking a deep breath. And honestly, that was what this next one was. I want you, especially at the dinner table, Thanksgiving is coming up. And I'm going to tell you, there is no other time when people and emotions spark high, when they're hungry, and when they get full, they start saying and talking reckless because they're comfortable. And so, sometimes we have family members that we can handle. Like 2 hours is a maximum, because after the 2 hours, the foolishness starts to come. There are some places I go with family members. I have my time set. I have something planned for my access. You're learning this now. Welcome to the reality of certain things. I have my exit already planned, because I know that if I'm there for too long, this is going to happen. Something's going to spark off. So I limit my time. I love my family. I go in, I embrace, we have an amazing time, and I plan my exit. But when we're at the dinner table, you can think about this, and the desserts and the dishes are being passed around, there's always that one, I call them messy folk. Everybody got somebody messy in their family. Everybody got somebody that has more problems than anybody else in the family, but always dealing and talking about everybody else's issues. When that individual and they say something hurtful to you at the table, or maybe you're out to a restaurant, we've got to begin to learn to take a breath. I am learning this so bad because I'm a person that I'm quick with my tongue. Y'all know I'd like to talk. I can talk a little bit. My mother said, boy, you can talk. So when people say things to me, Rob, I can cut you real good. I can give you a good tongue lashing. And so I'm learning to control my tongue. It's the smallest member on your body, but the hardest thing to control. It's so easier to pop off and give somebody a piece of your mind than it really is to control your tongue. And so what I'm learning to do is just what Yvonne said. I'm learning to take a breath. I'm learning that just because something is true doesn't mean that I always have to be the one to say it. I'm learning that just because it's real doesn't mean that I'm going to be honest with you. No, you're being mean. And so we've got to begin to learn how to take a deep breath. Now, let me tell you what happens. And people seem like, taking a deep breath, that's stupid. What is taking a breath going to do? It gives you time between the offense and your response is the first thing that it does. Secondly, when you take a deep breath, you inhale and you exhale, it releases carbon dioxide. It gives you new oxygen for you to think fresher and better thoughts. And then it also allows your heart a moment to process what you've really dealt with. When I've learned, Rob, that I can take a deep breath and then I begin to speak, I've learned that I can let go of the anger a little bit. And so it may not be as targeted as what I was going to say at first. Sometimes I just don't say anything at all. And I wait to see how I really feel about it, because your first emotion is going to be sparked by your ego. So when people say something that's offensive to you or something that just hits you the wrong way, your first response, the words that come to your mind, the first moments of this happening to you are the words that your ego is speaking. And I say that many of us emotions, that's emotions, we allow our egos to move us. And so we've got to learn how to relax, relate to release. We see a lot of young people popping up with violence and shooting one another because they're struck and they're moving by their emotions. Their ego is moving. And so we've got to take a deep breath so that we can begin to get our faculties and begin to process this information in a way that is positive and not destructive, so that we can begin to work through and move past this offense. All right. Next, and I want to make sure that I get these in before this time, because y'all know I get talking on these subjects. And I think that this is important for us to talk about. Remind yourself why you want this person in your life. Oh, bam. That's it, Rob. There are so many conversations. And I have to remind myself, why do I want this person in my life? And a lot of times we end up having people that are in our lives because we're used to having that person in our lives. We're used to them occupying a space in our life, even though they no longer occupy a purpose in our life. And so as we begin to talk about individuals who are habitual offenders in our lives, you've got to ask yourself, does this person yet serve a purpose for my life? Or are they yet, or I'm just used to them occupying a space in my life? And Rob, I'm at a point in my life, and it's not because I've reached a particular age. It's just because I now live life purposefully, that I no longer have time or space for people or things that don't fulfill purpose in my life. I hope you guys take a deep breath and let that one marinate, okay? When someone you care about acts in a way that is hurtful to you, but you want to keep the relationship, it's important to remember the good person, what that person has done for your life. Sometimes people can say stuff that hurts, and you know they may be having a bad day. So you gotta lend some space for grace, right? And so if there is an individual and you look at the impact and everything that they have done in your life has been positive, they've supported you and all those things, some things you just chalk up to a bad attitude. We've got to allow some things to just be let go. I'm not talking about that individual. I'm talking about those people who are continual habitual offenders, all right? People are not replaceable. So you got to think about this. When you tell somebody that you don't need them in your life, you can't replace your mother. You can't replace your brother. And I see people who make up these family dynamics because mother has offended them or father has done something, he's never been there, and they try to replace them. I was guilty. I was that man. I was mad because my father wasn't there for so long. And in my mind, I replaced him with my stepfather and with my grandfather. And when the day that he died, and I looked at him in that coffin, I didn't realize the hurt and the pain and the void that existed in my life, Rob, because in my mind, I had replaced his position in my life so that he could never hurt me. And so when that happened, I realized that I had so many undealt with emotions, so many things. Like you said, I thought I had moved on and I was good. But when he could no longer come back and when the relationship could no longer be resolved and there was nothing less to salvage because he was no longer with us, I realized that I tried to replace him with some other things, some other people in our lives. And because of that, after he died, there was a void and a pain that existed that I never expected to happen. Hey, Shar, how are you doing? So people are not replaceable. It's important to remind yourself that you have one father, one mother, and one best friend.
See, that doesn't apply to everybody because my father wasn't in my life. I got to meet him once, but when he died, I felt nothing. It's a lot of people that's like me. You know, if someone's not in your life or did something harmful to you or didn't do anything enough for you and you're aware of this, for some people, they don't feel anything about it. You know, they're not saying they're glad the person's gone, but they're not necessarily, you know, miserable about the whole thing either, you know. So,
Rob, you're still trying to defend.
No, I'm not defending. I'm not defending, and I wish you wouldn't call it that, because I'm saying my truth. This is my truth.
No, but this is my show. So we're gonna talk to people that want to hear this conversation.
I understand that, but I'm saying for those people who are listening, though, you know, because everything you're saying, it'd be a point, but it's not so easy for everybody.
And I agree that everybody's not there. So for those of you who are not there, and I think that you're going to lead in and understand what I'm saying, if you're not this person, then let it go. This is what I talk about. When something comes in and you know that it's not you, you got to let certain things go. They don't stop at the door. You don't let them entertain your mind. Like, well, I'm going to talk about, we got to process it and let it go. And so if this is not you, my intention is not to offend you, to hurt you, to make you feel bad, or to make you feel that you are not human. It's simply to talk and to address issues with those individuals who are dealing with some of the things. And I know that there are a lot of people out there, because I talk to you on a regular basis, that are dealing with these issues that are going on, and you're trying to figure out, how do I get past these issues of unforgiveness? All right. This doesn't mean that people should stick around for mistreatment. You should never stick around for mistreatment. And some people you have to detox from. I want to say this word, detox. There are certain people, and I think Rob may be speaking, you know, there's certain times you have to detox yourself from toxic people. And the only way to do that is to completely rid that thing from your system. And when you get it out, I'm going to tell you, when you have a good detox, you feel lighter, you feel freer, and you're able to move on and let those things go, Rob. So just about every relationship that you've ever been in requires some element or piece of forgiveness to maintain itself. You're always going to make mistakes, because we are human. We're going to disappoint. We're going to hurt. We're going to harm with our words. We're going to take certain things for granted. We're not going to spend enough time evaluating certain situations. So all of this is important, because everyone is flawed and our perceptions are too. So getting hurt is inevitable. It's a natural part of life. We have to have a mechanism for letting it go and making peace in order to have happy, sustainable relationships. And as we're moving toward the last quarter of this year, after so many horrific things that have taken place with this pandemic, with people dying, with the whole issues that have the global crises, global warming, the storms and hurricanes, and all of these things that are going on, my desire for each of us is that we find a way to make peace with our relationships so that we can begin to move forward. All right, I want you to begin next to set some boundaries. This is so important. I say this all the time. I always found that it's important for you to learn how to tell people how they can handle you. A lot of people, I have a cousin. My cousin moved in with me, and this is a funny story. She's moved in with me, and she is, she is a Gen Zer. She's a Generation Z person. She's not even a millennial. She's a Gen Zer. And she's moved in, and it's funny because she comes in and they have their own perspective. And I'm the type of person, I let you kind of show me who you are. And she's the type of person, Gen Zers and millennials, not all of them, I say that right now, but they have a somewhat of a sense of entitlement. They just think that, well, if it's there, I should be able to use it. There's no problem. And that is like so different from me, who happens to be Generation X. We asked for everything from our baby boomer parents, right? And so I've had to begin to set some boundaries. I have to show you how you can deal with me. Now, the reason this is important, because once you set those boundaries and you show them how to deal with you, when people offend you, they do so because they desire to offend you. So you have to begin to allow people to know, this is how you handle me. I'm going to set some very gentle boundaries. I think these may be in order. This doesn't mean calling people out, blaming them, or disowning them. But you need to learn how to simply say, what you just did is not okay. Many of us get angry. We get frustrated. We get mad. We get quiet. I'm not going to say a thing. If I had $1 for every time my mom would say to me, listen, I'm just going to be quiet and I'm not going to say anything else to you. Do what you want to. Then the next time she'd be talking again. But that's a whole, we've got to begin to set those general boundaries and show people how to handle us. Next, I want you to recognize that you're telling a story that can be changed. Listen to what I'm saying. Our brains are designed to keep us safe from danger. There is a mechanism in how we are created, and levels of dopamine and serotonin and all of those brain stimulators, they are designed to keep us safe. So whenever we feel like we've been hurt, Whenever we feel like we've been harmed, those things shut down, they close, they open doors, because you're so divinely and uniquely created that even your brain has a mechanism to keep you safe. So a lot of the stories that we all tell ourselves, they may not necessarily be fully accurate. We simplify to accentuate the threat. We create these distortions in our head to keep us safe. And the quickest way to forgive is to change the story. What that means is that that's why we always say there's two sides to every story, because if I've been offended, my body or my brain is going to shut down and it's going to learn how to protect myself. And we may need to be open to a conversation and be open to what we're hearing, because sometimes our thoughts may be distorted when we have been offended. And lastly, I want you to make yourself the hero. Attributing your present distress to something that happened in the past is a way of making yourself the victim. We don't need any more victims. I want you to offer this. I want to offer you this simple example. If I say the reason I'm unhappy now is that my wife left me 3 years ago, that's creating victimhood. A more truthful statement that I can share with you would be something like this. The reason I'm unhappy now is that my wife left me. I didn't have to put her in the person that is feeling or becoming the enemy. When you tell yourself the only one who is going to rescue you is yourself, this creates a hero to a tragic story. Make yourself the hero, change your story, and allow yourself to heal from the inside out. I want to take this time to say thank you all for tuning into another edition. Those stories are coming. Shar Goolsby, you're out there. You were talking about colorism. Now we're coming with the story of what is good hair. You all stay tuned. Come back next week with more conversations that we're having about the village. I love you all. Take care of yourselves and each other. Grace and peace.